Hi there, I'm Savannah. Today I'm going to talk to you about using Windows Subsystem for Linux with Python and Visual Studio Code. So before jumping into the VS Code or Python specific components of this demo, I should probably start by describing what the Windows Subsystem for Linux is. And so the Windows Subsystem for Linux, or WSL, is effectively a Linux environment on your Windows machine. This comes without the overhead of a virtual machine and allows you to run most command line tools, utilities, and applications directly on your Windows machine, just like you would on your Linux operating system. So I'm not going to walk you through the installation steps for WSL today. However, I will link to some helpful resources at the end of this video, and I will point out that you can install your favorite distribution directly from the Microsoft Store on Windows. I've chosen to install Ubuntu 18.04, which is my favorite distribution, but we have many distributions that you can choose from depending on your preference. Once you've done your basic WSL installation, as well as installed your preferred distribution for WSL, you'll want to open VS Code and navigate to the extensions and search for WSL and install the remote-WSL extension to enable Windows Subsystem for Linux and VS Code. After we've installed WSL and our preferred distribution, we can open a command prompt and see that we are in fact still in Windows. However, it's super simple to switch over to a Linux environment using the command prompt by simply typing WSL. And we'll notice that after that runs, we'll see that our root has changed and we are now in Linux. We can actually confirm that we're in Linux by typing lsb_release-a, and we'll see that we are in fact in Ubuntu 18.04, which is my preferred distribution. And this will vary depending on which distribution you've installed. And so if we want to move over and open our VS Code project, we could just simply use our Linux commands to navigate to the appropriate directory. So I store all my stuff in code, and then we can we can navigate inside the directory and then simply type code dot. So once the project opens in VS Code, we can notice WSL in a couple different places. First, because I've opened this project before, both in a Windows environment as well as an Ubuntu environment, I can see the same application, my useful website Flask, appear twice. This is because they were used in two different environments. I can also take notice that they have different paths because they exist in different file systems. If I go to the bottom left corner, I can also see that I'm in a remote connection, which is WSL Ubuntu. If I click that, I'm able to navigate between different environments. This is a super easy way to toggle between a Windows environment and a WSL environment. And I'm also able to close my remote connection should I want to. So now we're all set to start using our project in our WSL environment in VS Code. So I'll start by opening a new terminal, and we can see that we're still in Linux, so we're still able to use our Linux commands. So I'll start by creating a virtual environment. So once that finishes up, we can activate the virtual environment. And we'll see now that we are in our virtual environment. So now I can go ahead and install my requirements for the project. And we can see that it's installing Flask, and then it'll install PyTest. And so after that, we'll have all of our dependencies installed and we will be ready to run our app.py file. So now that that's done, we can open our app.py file, and we can notice that the Python extension is loading in VS Code. Once that's done, we're all ready to run this file. So next I'll hit play on my app.py file, and we'll see that the development server is starting up, the Flask app is running. If I navigate back to the browser and refresh, we see that the web app is loaded. So what's especially cool about this is that I'm running the application in my WSL environment. My browser exists in Windows. So one more thing that I want to show you is that you're also able to still debug your code even though you're using a WSL environment within VS Code. just like you would in Windows. So if I go back to VS Code and I stop the web application, I can navigate to the debugger using this triangle and bug icon. I've already configured my launch.json file to set up my debugger, and I can see that I've set a breakpoint on line 15, which is sys.platform. And if I click run, then I can go back to my browser and click refresh so that I hit the endpoint in Flask. And I can see that VS Code is notifying me that something interesting is happening. And I can go to the line which I've put the breakpoint on, and I see that it is highlighted. And now, again, we can see that the platform that this code is being run on is Linux, which is especially interesting because it reinforces once again that our browser is in Windows, but our coding environment is in Linux. And that's pretty much it. So to recap what we went over today, we talked about what WSL is, how to install it alongside your favorite distribution, how you can convert a command prompt to a Linux terminal, how you can open a project in VS Code using WSL, and we showed that we can still continue to debug and run our code in WSL environment within VS Code. If you want to try out what I demoed today, you can start by visiting the following links. Thanks for watching, and feel free to reach out and let us know how it goes.